Welcome to Is This on the Test, a podcast where we debunk myths about modern education. We are your hosts, Anthony Tavares,
Katrina Pardo,
Henry Flores,
and Madai Martinez.
We are the creative team behind Union City Music and Dance, and this podcast is for parents, aspiring teachers, mentors, and students, where we pull back the curtain on education. Let's get right into it.
Hey guys, and welcome back to Is This on the Test? And today's topic is going to kind of segue on what our discussion last week was about social emotional learning. But today we're going to talk about zones of genius and different types of intelligence. So I am joined here by Henry and Anthony. Sorry, guys. You can say your own name.
Anthony right over here.
and Henry Flores.
So the conversation today, I want it to be super casual because this is something that we've all felt as artists and something that we talk about often here at Ucmd. So how do you guys define a zone of genius?
I guess I'll start. It sounds pretty self-explanatory. The zone of genius is the field which you believe you're strongest in.
Okay.
So for us, well, for myself, I would say that is music, because I mean that's something I really study and I do enjoy messing around with. So any way that I can expand my knowledge, anything music related, I definitely do enjoy that.
Word up. Yeah, pretty similar. I feel like it could even be just an area of like something that also comes like naturally as well. So I was gonna say music. Like I would still say music, but I feel like music, I definitely had to work a bit more to get there. When I think of like a genius, it's almost like a genius in that facet of life, or like a genius in whatever craft that is. Like they're just that good. One thing that I feel like I was just that good at, not even to toot my own horn, it's just like talking. Like I've hosted a couple events, I stream. Like I feel like I'm really good at talking and like explaining things well. Like music, like I was never like a prodigy at really anything. Like I was terrible at music when I first started. I think it took a lot of effort for me to get good at it. So I guess it's a zone of genius now. So I feel like my earliest zone of genius was just talking well. But even I guess then you practice that too. So I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. So my next quick follow-up question to that is, when or how old were you guys, or where were you in your life when you first heard the term zone of genius?
I think I want to go first?
No.
Now that I'm studying music education in school, I think the first time I really heard it was at school, and it's
in
not
college. You mean?
in college? Yes, in college. And it's not that it was very surprising to me. I feel like it's something I already knew. Like obviously everybody's smart in their field. Like I had friends that were really good at math, but when it came to English, they were terrible at. But I also had other friends that were really good in English, but terrible in math. So that I've already seen, but I didn't really know there was an actual term for it, or like there were actual. There's like a whole. What's the word I'm looking for? Like a whole other category behind it. So doing my research in school, in college, I found that there's like 12 different learning styles, and this does tie into the zones of genius that we are going to be talking about in a little bit. Yeah.
So share that with us.
Damn.
What are the 12 styles?
I got it for you guys right here. Dang. So I can give you guys like the main and basic ones because I don't have all 12 in front of me. But you have your visual learners, your musical and auditory learners, your verbal learners, your physical and kinesthetic learners, logical and mathematical, your social and solitary learners. Do any of those
Yeah, absolutely.
resonate with you guys at all?
Well, I'll answer your first question first. Yeah, I think I first heard of zone of genius in college, but as Anthony was touching on, we had heard the idea of that, or I guess before then. I think the term zone of genius, I think I first heard in college, but like learning about like just like a master in that craft. I think in high school, like for my preparatory exams, you have to go get master classes, and so like I was trained under like a master pianist. But I feel like if you hear a master in anything, it's like, whoa,
Right.
like, it was clearly a genius in that zone. And as for the zones of geniuses, yeah, I feel like I'm definitely. I feel like I guess a few of them. Like I feel like I'm definitely like a solitary learner. A lot of the things I've learned best were alone, like just me either teaching myself or in a one-on-one setting. But definitely just like alone. A lot of the things I've learned that I kind of use now, I've kind of taught myself. And I'm definitely a visual learner. I can learn a lot by just like osmosis, as I call it. Me and my friends call it. Just kind of being like, I'll learn a lot just by being near you. I'll like slowly absorb your powers. So I feel like those are my two. And yeah, honestly, like now that I'm saying it out loud, it totally makes sense because I'll totally like watch something be done and like be like, oh, I can do that, and then go home and try it and then do it. Like so much of what I do nowadays started in that way, just like being like, yeah, I can do that thing, and then going home and doing that thing or learning how to do it.
Right. So I think, for the purposes of what we're sharing here and for the purposes of what we're doing at UCMD, it's important to know when students come to us what kind of learner that they are. This is something that we're going to be putting a more formal assessment in place because I think, have you guys ever been assessed to know the
No.
type of learner that you are?
I think I have. If I'm not mistaken, I'm like a hands-on learner. If I can feel something and understand how it works, then that works really best for me. Rather than I know some people that they're visual learners, so they see like a graph or a chart, and it clicks for them like right away.
Yeah.
I'm also kind of a visual learner, but it doesn't really stick to me as much as me using my hands.
Is that like bodily kinesthetic?
Yeah,
I guess I would be good at that too.
Yeah, that'll be bodily kinesthetic. So again, back to like, I feel like anybody who's really good at sports is bodily kinesthetic. So, yeah, that's their zone of genius.
Yeah. I think in a lot of ways, like, we're all a little bit of everything.
For
we're
sure.
all each kind of learner. It's just about, like, what's your main or what percentage are you the most of. Like, for me, as an art, like, I noticed that my main one is visual. That although I'm a dancer and although, like, I'm very much in my body, that's kind of the way that I express on a inside out type of way. But if information's coming into me, then it's more visual.
Yeah.
I need to, if I'm designing something, I need to block it out. I need to sketch it out. I need to see how everything's moving. If we're going to be doing an event, I'll do like a floor plan and kind of see what the flow is going to be. But I definitely can see different scenarios where we have been, or maybe different phases of our lives.
Yeah.
Where we maybe graduate into being a visual learner, into being, because I think at the end of the day, like we've talked about before, education's never really over. And we're constantly learning and we're constantly adjusting depending on our experiences. We shift and morph ourselves.
Yeah.
So I have I pulled up this article from Business Insider, and it says that most people will spend at least 90,000 hours working over the course of their career.
90,000.
90,000. So, and it says even more for those who don't retire at 65. So this is like on a base level retirement.
How much does 90,000 calculate to in years?
90,000. I'm gonna have to do that.
I
do that
Listeners at home,
right.
If you can find out before me.
give us the receipts.
My point is, and then the article goes and it says, given so much of our time is spent working, one would hope that we could make an overall experience more fulfilling and maybe even a little bit more enjoyable. And that brings us to really the meat and potatoes of today. Identifying your zone of genius at a younger age. It's not to say, again, wait, you have the stat?
Yes. 10.2 years.
10.2 years of our lives.
Yeah.
That's pretty hefty. Just straight up working. And I'm sure that's more if we're like, not, this is a 9 to 5 if we were really on a 9 to 5 schedule.
Okay.
But needless to say, it's a big chunk of your time. And this is work. I would also equate work and school on the similar vibration. So I would, and then you're in school for
17 years.
Anthony's got it.
I did the math.
Yeah.
I've done 17 years.
The point is, in a lot of ways, we're learning and absorbing it with formality for a lot of minutes of our lives. And yet, you guys both expressed that it wasn't really until college that you heard what zones of genius were.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So which leads, and this is something that was it brought up to you, like as part of a conversation or part of addressing what your specific zone of genius was?
For me, it just approached that in a conversation. It wasn't really anything that we were talking to we were really trying to go too in depth with. It's not really something I was looking for myself, but obviously studying to become a better music teacher for my future students. This topic was definitely brought up in school for sure. And I definitely did think it's really important because obviously, like we just said, nobody learns the same, and not all of us have the same intellect. So if we're able to understand, from what I'm getting right now is 12, and it's always more, it's always expanding. If we're able to understand all the different zones of genius, it'll be easier to understand which style our students need, and then we can cater to them.
Absolutely. So, sorry. Yes, Henry. For you.
Wait, to which question?
The question was, when you heard zones of genius for the first time, was it in addressing specifically what your zone of genius was, or was it just a blanket statement?
No, yeah, I think it was. We were just like talking about just zones of genius in general, but I don't think I ever had. Well, when the word came up, it wasn't used in like that way. But when I had encountered like just the discussion of like working with a master, I guess in that sense it was catered to me. But just because it was just like preparatory music, so I'm not sure if it was like for me, but just like the program you're in, so something like that. But and then there's a second part of your question or no?
No, that was it. I don't know.
Okay.
Did you ask a question?
I don't think so. I think I was just going off.
Okay.
Yeah. The point that what I'm getting at is I think we go a lot of our lives learning in darkness is kind of how I want to say it. We're kind of learning. Imagine yourself like with your eyes closed, like at the touch tunnel at Liberty Science Center. You guys been there? Shouts to Liberty Science Center. You're not a Jersey kid if you didn't.
Yeah, have the field trip.
Yeah, go to the touch tunnel.
I had a field trip like every other year.
I mean, it kind of sucks because of COVID, but anyways, tangent. But remember that feeling of like when you're in a tunnel where if you're in somewhere that's enclosed and close to your body and it's dark, there's an anxiety that comes with that. Imagine going through life. Well, you don't have to imagine because we all kind of did, where the zone of genius wasn't really identified, and if we weren't doing good in school, then we thought we were either stupid or there was something wrong with us.
Yeah.
Because never in school do I remember in my formal education at any level, really, even in college, having a formal assessment of what kind of learner I was and then how to cater the education or the lecture or the curriculum to that specific type.
For sure.
Am I wrong?
No, I agree.
No, I definitely felt the same. There was a point in my life where I wasn't doing too good in math, and then my dad put me in Kumon.
Oof.
That was rough. I don't recommend that for anybody. It was torture. It's like getting more homework on top of the homework you already have. And don't get me wrong, it definitely did help, but it wasn't it at the age that I went. It kind of made me feel a little stupid. I was like, damn, maybe I'm very behind. But in reality, it just wasn't really using my proper way of doing math. Like, again, everybody's learning different. I had like a different way to do math, and now that I do math in this particular way, it definitely works a lot better for me.
I mean, we could talk about how they do math nowadays. It's kind of crazy, but that's another story for a different day.
Oh, when you find out.
Yeah, one thing I was going to say is, not only are we, I agree, we're kind of like, you're like, yo, you gotta train. And you're like, for what? And we're like, I don't know, but because out there, you got to train. Right. And it's like, that's all it is when you're in school. Like, oh, because when you get to high school, and you get to high school, oh, but when you get to college, and you get to college, oh, but out in the real world, and it's for what? What is it exactly? And hopefully maybe in college, and hopefully maybe before then, you're finding, hopefully by then, your zone of genius. But yeah, it's a lot of like blind preparation for the sake of preparing.
Right.
And then a lot of kids, unfortunately, one, they do prepare or over prepare, but then they don't find their zone of genius. And so I know several people who have like gotten a degree in something and like they don't even use it, or like growing up, and I can definitely relate to that. Like, cause like I did well in school, but like it was definitely tough because I don't feel like the one type of way that it is taught. Like there's many methods of learning or ways of learning, but I feel like we're only kind of taught in like a couple of those. I don't want to say one, but definitely not all of them. And on the we do like keep learning forever, and it's so funny because I've looked things up online. I've looked random things up online. I remember, this is a quick tangent, but it will be connected. I was watching an explanation of why the explosion in Chernobyl happened, because I watched a series on it, and so like I was watching this video on YouTube, and it's like a lot of really in like high level chemistry and a bunch of stuff, yeah. But it's explained so well in the video with like pictures and diagrams, and like not just the pictures, but the guys explaining it really well. And then all the comments were like, "Wow, thank you for like taking this super high level like radioactive science and making it so easy to digest." And that happens all the time. Whenever I'm looking stuff on YouTube, like all the comments are like, "Wow, this like thanks." Being like, this is so much easier to understand. And it's probably other teenagers or young adults like me who are just like, wow, I wish it was explained this way in school, because instead of the way we learned it, it was like we did not leave school like understanding the thing.
Yeah, and I think, on that note, now that we are observing the students in different settings here, I'm really really enjoying that, having like an after school portion and like a creative portion and like a social emotional learning space. All of those things combined are really 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 informative to us as teachers and to us as human beings. I'm learning so much by watching and observing them make connections. Today we were doing like an origami exercise, and we couldn't for the life of us get this dang star to like fold the way that the videos like showed us. And it was really funny the way how different kids were approaching it. And one thing that was common is when we don't understand something, you retract. Whether you're retracting in frustration and like throwing the thing or like slamming it or whatever, or you'll very like, I had students like very sneakily like, and then I'm like, wait, where did this person go? Because kids are incredibly intuitive, and the nature of what's so beautiful about kids is that they're not tarnished by like, having to like have these real life like pressures to figure this out. So watching them in their natural like environments and how they naturally go about things when things aren't working out is incredibly informative. And then that kind of informed me as I was doing the star, and how my level of perseverance was took a different route. And so, and I noticed that it was because I was doing something creative. At the end of the day, this was like a very hands manual thing. And if you were a student that doesn't care for that, maybe you're here for music and I'm making you make a star and you're like, what is this? I noticed that I was in my zone of genius and I was in my flow. So that brings me to the next question. How do you identify or how do you feel when you're in a state of flow? What does that look like or feel like in your body?
The best way I can explain a state of flow is no place and no time. I just feel like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. I'm not worried about anything that's going on outside or anything that's going around in front of me. But if I'm practicing guitar, for example, it's just me and the music, and I'm just practicing until, for whatever reason, I feel exhausted. And there's times where I've practiced guitar and I'm sitting there and I notice like 30 minutes have gone by. I'm like, wow, like this is literally just 30 minutes of work that I just put in. I'm like, you know what? I should practice more often, because I like being in that state of flow. Like, I'm not worried about anything. Again, it's just me and the music. And to really feel like I'm locked in with something and not worried about what's going on in this outside world, it's a really good thing. I definitely do enjoy that feeling for sure.
And how do you come out of that experience?
What do you mean?
Like, how do you feel when you're coming out of that experience?
Out of the flow? I'm like, all right, you know what? I did what I need to do. First things first, I feel a bit more accomplished, and I feel more confident because I was in a state of flow. I feel like not that many people can really lock into that state of flow.
Absolutely.
It's a little difficult for most people to get into. If you're not focused or you don't have any discipline, it's very hard to lock in. But yeah, once I'm out of it, I'm like, you know what? I feel good about myself because I've been disciplined for, let's say I did practice for 30 minutes. I was disciplined for just those 30 minutes, and I feel really great.
Yeah.
And it definitely boosts up my self-esteem for sure.
Yeah, which is wonderful. It's kind of like that euphoric feeling of like coming out of the gym in a different way, but you're activating very similar like centers.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I think yeah, very similar to Anthony's answer. I think it's definitely a kind of zone that you can get into where you kind of lose track of time. And it's honestly like the few times you probably want to lose track of time doing something like you really like and feel comfortable in. Because I feel like there's definitely you maybe comfortable is not the right word, but you definitely just want to be like locked in. Like I've definitely I like I like it, like teaching things. I like to share what I know. I've learned about myself for sure. Like if I learn something, I immediately want to tell someone else about it. Like anything, information.
I'm definitely the same. I've been told that.
Like it's not enough for me to just and like not on like some like egotistical like or mansplaining kind of like let me lecture you. Like I don't if I find something out that's cool, I really want to share it. And so teaching has been great, and I've expressed this to like both Madai and Anthony. I never planned on teaching. Like that's not what my music education was for. I was definitely more for performance art and like performing. I had a band, and I'm playing with a band nowadays. Like more performing is definitely what I planned to do. But I didn't expect to love teaching as much as I do, and I feel like I definitely get into flow states teaching. Madai can attest to this, but I go over my time all the time because I'm like, I've had definitely lessons where the teacher's like, okay, it's whatever 30, you can get out. You know, like they're teaching you up until the minute, and I get it, you do want to stay on the schedule, but like if I'm on a lesson, like I'm showing you something, I want to finish that point. I don't want to just end it there.
Or feel like the student like took.
Yeah, like I'll really, and I'll just be like in it and like explaining it and talking, but even if I do go over, or even if it's like a flow state that has kept me up until 2 a.m. because like sometimes you maybe flow state at the wrong time.
No such thing.
Yeah, but yeah, exactly. Like, you know, it'll be like, oh, shoot. Yeah.
But I will say, I've had those moments, and call it flow, call it whatever you want. And my follow-up question is going to be, how often, you guys are both musicians, how often do you find, or like if you were to give me a percentage of your week, of how, like what percentage of your week do you say that you kind of live in flow? Just kind of quantify a little bit.
If I'm being honest, maybe like
pretty good amount.
30. I would say maybe good 30 to 40%. Just because as of lately been really busy, so I don't really have too much time to dedicate to myself.
So that's on your low range.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, wow. Okay, Henry.
Yeah, like right now lower than usual, but no, I feel like in the past year, like pretty high up there, just because like I did this like social experiment with myself this year, which was just like doing only what I want, and I challenge the viewers to try to do this, like try to only do what you want for like a week. The reason I say week is like it's harder than you think. Like I'm very lucky that I like my job, so that's easy. But like pull up to my job. But try to do only what you want for a week.
Wherever possible.
Yeah, wherever possible. Well, that's why I say challenge, right? And not what you should do or what you think you should do. Like only what you want. And so I did that this year, which was a lot of fun. And it's pretty nice. I mean, to not detract from the question too much. Yeah, like this year I was definitely much more in my flow state because I was doing what I want, and as a result, I'd be so invested in what I was doing. Like I'd be fully committed to what I was doing. Like, I used to do this thing where I would like kind of like not really be there. Like I would be talking to someone and like thinking about what I have to do once I get home. So I'm like kind of half talking to them, and I was just constantly living in the future, which is something that I kind of tried to break in the past 2 years. And so now, like whatever I was doing, like, oh, I'm in laser tag right now for my friend's birthday, then I'm going hard, right? Like for laser tag, I'm doing a corn maze. You guys saw me. I'm fully committing to the corn maze. Like it doesn't matter what I'm doing. Like if I'm doing it, then let me fully be there. And so I'll find myself being in flow for the randomest things. I'll be in flow running around in a corn maze. I'll be in flow teaching. I'll be in flow like helping my friend build a shelf, like because I'm just like, well, if I'm there, let me just be there. Don't let me think about like, damn, I thought we were gonna go out instead of helping you build a shelf. It's like, no, well, you need help with this shelf. Let me fully be there. And so like nowadays I find myself being in flow a lot more just because I'm just fully leaning into the thing as opposed to just like doing the thing in spite of something else I want to do.
Yeah, so you're being very aware of the present moment.
Yeah, which took a long time, you know, like I wasn't always like this. Like that's something I kind of practiced and worked on.
Yeah, and I think, you know, what I'm getting to here with these questions is that it's a layered experience. You don't just wake up and know with no guidance what kind of a learner you are. You don't know without having tried a bunch of things what puts you in triggers that state of flow for you. You don't know, you don't have those passions. And it goes to, when we talk about parents and we talk about the different ways that UCMD specifically thinks and what our mindset is here, we're tackling these tools so that they have them for real applications in their life. So when we're talking about, hey, algebra or whatever, like if we were school teachers, it's like I like to give them scenarios where they are going to, really utilize these tools. So how are you going to practice empathy? How are you going to practice that flow? Because flow isn't just about an artistic thing. You don't, yes, of course, it's easier for artists to be in a state of flow because it's creative mindset, but creativity lives everywhere. And I think that's something that it's easier trained backwards. It's easier if we train you in like piano and you're able to achieve flow in piano, and then like you said, apply it to then like a shelf building, all these different things in your real life. But would you guys be shocked if I told you that like the average person lives in flow like 2% of their time?
No, I would not be surprised at all.
I thought 30 and 40% was pretty bad, but 2%.
30s, guys, that is like real privilege. Like that is special that you can do that.
Oh, definitely.
I didn't even ask you how often.
Yeah.
Am I in flow?
Yeah. Throughout the week.
I honestly, I'm in flow like a pretty decent amount of time. I would say like I live in flow like 60%.
I was gonna say I didn't give a number, but I would say like 50, 60.
Yeah,
for sure.
Because even like I said, when you love what you do, that's a big key here, which we will continue to cover on that route. When you love what you do, everything that you're doing to support that thing is a part of the branch, even if it's the most annoying task. Like let's say there's like a phone call that I'm really dreading to have, or a conversation that I'm just like not about. I look at the bigger picture, and that then puts me in like it's going. And when I am able to address that fear, let's call it fear just for the sake of like maybe confronting someone that I'm like, I don't want to have this conversation with this person, or things, of course things will be difficult, but you eat it like because you know that if it goes well, it's just gonna be so much better for like everybody involved. And that's kind of like having the why helps those obstacles so much more.
For sure.
And I wanted to ask you guys, of course, like even as musicians, and we can also tie it back to life so they can start to see where we're headed here. Are there moments where either you're playing a piece or something's like not like going the way that you're expecting it to? What happens then? Is flow interrupted, or is there happy surprises, or like how does that navigate and live? Again, going back to your body and your state of flow and being.
Damn. Because I'm going to tie this back to music like I do with everything else.
Yeah, that's fine.
I don't mean to. So, for example.
That's your zone.
Yeah, no. But for the viewers to relate. Anyways, so for example, let's say I'm in my a state of flow, right? And I'm practicing something classical guitar related. And for my classical musicians, if you mess up in classical music, it's very frustrating. So at that moment, I get frustrated. I'm like, yo, what's going on here? And if I can't get it, I kind of do beat myself up. But I try not to lose that state of flow. Now, let's say if I'm working on like my own music, if I'm recording something, I'm messing around with different chord progressions, different leads, and I'm reading a book on like, I don't know, like modal voicings. If I'm reading it and there's something I don't understand, at that moment it's a happy surprise for me, because I'm like, oh snap, I didn't know this, but now I know I'm going to learn something new. And then I do kind of get a little bit invested in that, and my state of flow is still kind of there for sure. So again, if it's something that I feel like I'm going to benefit from 100%, then yeah, I guess it's really more so like a happy pause. But if it's something that I know I'm going to be struggling with for a while, damn, I'm gonna hate it. And I think my flow does kind of get interrupted that way.
And in that case, do you have to like pause and like fully do something else and shift gears?
Kind of how you said with the origami exercise you're doing with the kids. I kind of feel it in my body. Like I feel that state of flow stop, and I'm like, dang, I do feel really tense. But then I sit down for a little bit, do some breath work, and I kind of like disperse that some other way, and then I try to get back to it. And then if it does keep on bothering me, then yeah, I'll take a little bit of a break, and then I'll come right back to it to accomplish it. So yeah, that's kind of what it is for me.
Mm-hmm. That's great, and I feel like that's something that we learn because of music that you should really apply to it. Sneak peek into one of my later episodes that I'll be doing on the Instagram page. But one thing I was gonna say as tips for parents to help their children practice at home, and I guess for the kids themselves, is that it's important to know when to take a break, which you learn that in everywhere, but I feel like you learn that pretty early on in music, and I was able to kind of take that to everything else I do, studying, homework. Like if you're like you're really struggling and you're just kind of cramming the information and it's not landing. Like sometimes I've made the choice to go to sleep and then wake up early and then study in the morning, or go to sleep and wake up early and continue the thing in the morning. Like sometimes I'll be like, I am not getting the thing tonight. Like whatever it is that I'm trying, it's not working. Mm-hmm. If I just stay up, I'm just going to deprive myself of sleep and still not get it. So yeah, I think that's really good. Like one thing that I definitely, and to answer my dad's question, like one thing that has happened to me, which is actually kind of funny, I've gotten better at it now. So once I kind of like get into like a flow state, I really don't want to get interrupted. Like I'm not an angry guy, but I am very overprotective of like times when I'm happy, and so like I'll randomly get like very like I don't even know what the word is. Like if I'm like in the middle of doing something and I get a phone call,
I can definitely.
I like see red for a split second. I'm just like, oh my god, and then I just see that it's like my sister. I'm like, oh, what's up, Tita? But like just for a moment there, like the initial reaction is just like almost like straight up rage, which is so interesting. I don't know why. No, like things don't make me that angry,
well,
but
I'll tell you why.
I'm like super overprotective of like that state, and I like do not want it to
flow.
Yeah.
So again, I explained this in this way to the kids. Mm-hmm. Did you guys watch Soul by any
Great
chance?
movie.
You watched it? Anthony,
I'm gonna get there from
my
beginning.
heart.
One of the better Disney movies in a while, I think, or Pixar.
Such a wonderful
From
film.
what I saw was really good.
I heavily relate. I was like, what? Like,
wow. So what I'm saying, so you know the part in Flow where he's like struggling, because that's what I'm saying. He was because the thing is, and the reason why flow is so important is because this is, if not the single most important thing that the arts does for us. Mm-hmm. It shows us this so we can apply it to our everyday lives. And in Flow, he's like playing the piano. I think he was doing like a jazz composition, and he was like struggling. Mm-hmm. But all of a sudden something happens, and it interrupts him, but it triggers him into this new way of seeing the music. Yeah. And the way that Disney depicted it was he literally got into a bubble. Yeah. And like
the way they depict
away.
flow in that movie is
and
so
what's
good.
happening to you is once we're in that bubble, it's a very intimate.
It is very
space.
intimate. Yeah.
Because in flow, that's where your creativity. You're like, there's almost something like.
It's very vulnerable.
Yeah,
by the way.
It's like super, and it's malleable because it can go every direction. Yeah. Like there's so much happening, and it's a physical, it's a physical and mental state.
If I can butt in real quick, I made this analogy in our previous episode, but I liken it always to like if you're singing in the shower or you're singing at home and you think no one's home, as soon as you hear that other voice call your name, or like anyone can relate to this, like, or maybe me and Anthony, I don't know. If you ever been when you were a kid, you were playing with your toys, like, psh, 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 and then you just hear.
Well, I can't be playing with toys?
I don't know. Well, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Sorry.
That was
gender norms are a construct. But.
What do you think? I had a laptop and I was like, up in my little.
The guy has been on the grind since day one. No, to anyone of any gender who was ever playing with toys, action figures, a car, whatever, and you're in that. Right. As soon as I would hear Henry, that world is gone.
Right.
Or as soon as you hear that person call your name when you're singing in the shower, dismantles right there.
Because it's, you know, and that's what happened in the where I was getting is in that bubble. That when that bubble, because it happened in the movie, that bubble got popped for him, and he
like
just,
literally,
like,
he literally
fell.
fell. The piano falls,
and that's what's happening.
Yeah.
You know, all of a sudden you're interrupted. It's like, you know, transcending or being in a dream state, and then like being snapped back to reality. Or when you wake up, you know, when you wake up startled.
Yeah.
And you're like, or wake up from a dream you like having, and you're like, damn, I want to go back to bed. That's exactly what's happening. You're being yanked out of that state.
Yeah, definitely. It's very personal. It's very vulnerable. But Di and I were talking. I don't know, Anthony, if you were in discussion, but we were talking about, and I read this somewhere, so I'm stealing it from somewhere. But the most personal thing you can do with someone else is create something, like art in some ways. And so I would. It stands to reason that if you are in that flow, you're creating something with yourself, and what if I said you and yourself could be a pair right there? That's a topic for another day. So like if you are creating in that sense, it's very vulnerable. It's very personal, and it's hard to get there. For some, it's very hard to get there. So imagine like you finally get into it, and then something happens. The doorbell rings.
Yep.
Or like,
And I'm gonna take this a step further, and again, because this is for our parents and for our adult listeners, creativity and sexuality are very, very linked. And I share this with a lot of people because a lot of people don't know that when you're really vulnerable and you're really okay with being your creative self, that taps into your sexuality and your sensuality, very much like easily relatable. So just gonna put that out there.
No,
for
very
anybody
true.
to hear that.
With that point that you just made, I was telling you this. Like I've definitely been, and I don't know if the listeners can relate, even if you're not a musician. Like one time I was currently in a relationship, but I was performing with someone else, and I was like playing guitar and singing with them, and like I always commit 100%. So I was like really into it, and I look over at my partner. She was not having it. And I told you, like, I've definitely created with another person, and it almost feels like you're doing something wrong.
Yeah.
Or if you're not in nothing else, and there is no prior relationship, partnership, then it's just like, whoa, like what's going on with this person right now? It's very personal. It can be very intimate. And I believe, again, I'm going to try and find where I read that, but I wholeheartedly agree that one of the most personal things you can do with someone else is to create something.
And I'm sure it's on that, when if we talk about energy and like if you know that your chakra system, like it comes from the same space within your body. Like creativity flows from that same solar
Definitely.
Anthony, you have anything to add? You look like you want to intrude in this conversation.
I'm gonna keep that one to myself.
Well, I wanted to again, cause another article that I pulled up was the benefits of flow. Because we're not up here willy nilly like having these conversations. There's so much science behind this, and there's so much benefits to this. And again, it's not about, yes, we find flow most in the creative arts. So if you're painting, if you're playing music, dancing, etc. But these are some of the benefits that kind of are behind the scenes. There's better emotional regulation. So it says with increased flow, people also experience more growth towards emotional complexity. That's a big one, right? In a lot of ways, like we don't understand our bodies enough to be able to communicate our feelings efficiently. There's better enjoyment and fulfillment. Of course, if you're in a flow state, you're like, it's like a high almost, it's like a body high. So greater happiness, more intrinsic motivation. And you talked about that. Because flow is positive mental state, it can help increase enjoyment and motivation. And intrinsic motivation involves doing things for internal rewards. And that's a big one because I feel like in a lot of ways we've breeded a generation where it's like, what do I get?
Yeah.
Or like, where's my trophy? Or like, what? I did this thing. Where's my like reward?
It's all reward based, yeah.
And you're like, the reward is that you did it, and you hurdled that obstacle.
Good job,
Right?
congratulations.
You gotta clap. Which I'm always silently having like,
oh, for sure.
Yeah.
woohoo! Yes, I did it. Like when you finally break through, man, that is such a good feeling.
It's a really good feeling.
Yeah.
Sure.
Increased engagement, so people in flow are fully involved. So there's that element of like mindfulness and presence. improve performances. So flow can enhance a performance in a wide variety of ways, including teaching, learning, athletics, and obviously creativity, learning, and skill development. Because the act of achieving flow indicates a substantial mastery in a certain skill, people have to keep seeking new challenges and information in order to maintain this state. And that's a really good one because flow keeps us learning in a way that doesn't feel like we're learning. So the reason we're able to stay in flow is because we have achieved a certain skill level, matched by an equal challenge that keeps us kind of grinding and getting better. But once we've mastered that, we need to like keep leveling up to continue to feel that flow state.
For sure.
So key indicator, if you no longer feel in flow, then that means that you gotta level up.
Gotta work hard.
And then more creativity. So flow states often take place during creative tasks, which can help inspire greater creative and artistic pursuits. But again, I would venture to say that once this becomes second nature and muscle memory to you, you can apply that to the most mundane things. What are mundane things that you guys feel also trigger you into this dream trance-like state?
Oh, mundane things that...
Yeah. So not playing music, not doing anything artistic.
I was gonna say earlier, let me get closer to the mic. Have you guys ever like washed a plate?
Okay, I was gonna say dishwasher.
Me too, me too, yeah.
You wash a plate and you're like, damn, I don't want to do this. But as soon as you get your hands wet, you're like,
you're just like,
I'm already here. I might as well. You finish all the dishes.
You need me to wash that too? Hand it over. Yeah,
right,
do everything.
That really puts me in a flow state, and it's really weird because I'm doing chores. But I guess it's just the act of cleaning to cleanse something.
Cleaning for sure puts you in a state.
Cleaning definitely puts me in a flow state.
Yeah,
If I'm ever in my room and something's out of place, I gotta organize it. Like my OCD kicks in.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that also has to. I think it's just really cleaning for the most part. Just really trying to get something organized really puts you in a flow state.
Yeah, it can be really. It can really be anything as long as you just like you're fully into that thing. Although one thing I will say is that sometimes like I don't even know. I would argue that if you're washing dishes and you're kind of just like super into washing the dishes, you get lost. But one thing I saw this reel, which it was just a TikTok, but it was somebody driving with like this really mellow trancey song, and it was like me forgetting I exist at the red light. And I was like, oh, snap. That's so relatable. Like, I've definitely just been driving, and I'm just.
You're like, how did I get here?
Yeah, I'm just like, whoa, what? Yeah, like, not that I'm not paying attention to the road, but I have definitely just, like, been at a.
Out there.
Yeah.
There's a new driver in town. Be careful.
Put yourself on board.
I've definitely been at a red light and just, like, dissociate at the light. And then it's green light. I'm like, oh, snap, I exist. All right, let's go. And then I keep going. So I found that kind of funny. But, yeah, you really could get, like, lost in anything. That's the cool thing about flow, like the flow state, as Madai says. It's not like exclusive to creatives. It's not exclusive to musicians or artists. You could really find it in like anything. Like and maybe more so in other things. I know people who build a lot of stuff, and like when they're making chairs or whatever, they're just like super in it. And I honestly can totally see that because I used to like love Legos and Bionicles as a kid.
Well, that's interesting.
Yeah.
If you're a carpenter,
you're an
artist.
Sure. Yeah, you definitely are. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's probably because you are creating in that sense, so I just kind of went against my own point. But you can...
Well, here's what I'll say to you. I think that, and I've noticed this with my own group of friends, I've noticed that the ones that are not creative, and Yumi sees that too when she comes here, she's like, you guys are in such a different wavelength. Because we are always like, thinking of, what if... we're always having those like moments.
Like
I don't know how
would it work out?
I don't know what I'm trying to exactly say, but we're always in a state of like, it's like I guess it's a growth mindset in a way.
Probably.
Where we're like, remember like the other day I was like, what if like Sophie did this with this other student, and you're like, we're always trying to like create and
mess
group.
with the world.
Yeah, we're just like always like constantly playing around with those moving parts. And what I was getting at is I do feel that we do that efficiently and well because we're trained artistically.
Yeah.
I feel like
I don't think you can. I'm gonna go ahead and if you do this, please let us know. I don't know how well someone that never has played an instrument, done an art, danced, anything creative writing, all of that. I don't know how well they can tap into their flow states in outside in their everyday life. So I want you guys to think about your group of friends or anyone that you hang out with that does or has never played anything, and think about how their conversations are. Are they generally happy people? Like, do they? I don't know. What's the vibe?
No, I kind of I'll go first if you don't mind. Oh, one I was gonna say I agree, but it's interesting because I feel like, and again, I don't know if it all goes back to the creating of things. So like one thing that I've seen is that I have a lot like any friends that I don't have that don't play music, they're into sports. I don't know what it is about those two that don't always. We have a few students who play sport, but I don't know what it is. Any friends that
but sports definitely flow state there.
Yeah, exactly. I was gonna say, and I haven't done like that many sports. I haven't been like a sports person, but this summer I got a trainer, and I will definitely say that when you're working out or training like high intensity for a sport, which I guess is also working out, you can very easily enter a flow state, and it's a different kind too.
Yeah,
like it's almost like you're so you're very present, like you're working so much with yourself, like there's something about just like being there and just like you're like, whoa, I'm really doing this for me, with me, in me, kind of thing. Just like reciting the
if I could butt in, I feel like any sort of art form is very taps into your mind and your soul when it comes to working out, and I definitely do agree because when I'm exercising, I'm also in a flow state. It really taps more so into your body. And
it's like a different one.
And honestly, I love the fact that you brought that up because it really is different.
It's a different one. Like, it's not the same one, like, but it is also flow.
Like if you're weight training, you'll feel the pain, but it doesn't hurt.
No,
it just feels like a lot of pressure and tension that you don't really want to feel, but once you kind of feel it and go through it, you realize it's really not that bad. I think honestly, I'm good with that. Right there.
No, for sure. And I guess like our combined answer to Madai is like, I mean, if you aren't doing working as a creative, but you don't work out or do a sport, then I really I mean, again, also educate us as well. Then I really don't know what you do. Like if you're just an accountant or something, I don't know. This is not a shot at accountants out there, but you know what I'm saying. Like if you're just at your cubicle or something.
Yeah, you have to do something for you. And going back to that, 90,000 hours of our lives spent doing. Imagine if you are in a scenario where you don't necessarily or particularly like your job. Imagine that's where I think we get lost in the sauce. That's where life really takes a turn, and that's where there is no more motivation, and that's where then mental health becomes a problem. That's where you then feel like you're suffocating and you're kind of in a vicious loop that you can't really get out of. And that's why even if you do that, you always have to combat it with a hobby or something that you do just for you that does put you in states of flow. So I challenge you guys to see what are those activities that you're doing that are making you lose track of time, that are making you just like enter this other dimension, if you will. And I think everybody should have at least a few.
I agree. And just while we're still on that point, to reference the movie Soul again, shout outs to Pixar. But just because they do such a good job of it, this isn't much of a spoiler because it's in the trailer. Obviously, the main character, he's like in this little ghost spectral form. He's his soul, right? And he's traveling to different astral planes or whatever. But one really cool thing that the movie does, and maybe you'll remember, is that while he's in the astral plane or whatever, he can see people who are in flow state.
Yeah.
And then the people explain it's because when you're in flow, you're so close to this realm in the universe of the movie is that you're like so up there and out there that like souls can see you, right? But you remember was on the bottom, it's like all these like zombie looking people made of sand. He's like, well, who are those? And he's like, those are people who are lost. And it's so close. Like people who are lost in life, at least in terms of the movie, they mentioned that people who are lost are not that far from people who are in flow state, and it's just like one thing is missing. And then they save one of the zombie sand people, and then it cuts to real life, and it's someone like super dead at a cubicle job, and then he just quits right there, and then he like just goes and like starts his life. So yeah, I think it's definitely for like a health reason too. I think you definitely in this day and age, um, whether it leads to flow state or not, hopefully it does, but you should be doing stuff for you.
Yeah.
And I think the more stuff for you that you do, the more in flow state you are. Like I can definitely confidently say, Amadai, you could probably relate because Ant, you're still in school. Given that's still for you, but maybe that's why your percentage is lower.
No, for a fact.
Almost everything I do to my day to day schedule for work for anything is still kind of for me. I don't think there's anything I'm doing right now that I don't want to do, and I'm very lucky and privileged to say that. Like even the work that I do here, I still love. I love making videos. So as soon as you tasked me to do a thing, I was all in because like I love doing that stuff and I love teaching.
But going back to the conversation, remember we've had multiple conversations where I've brought up zones of genius quite a bit, and because I, as like we're gonna call it me a manager, as I manage the team, I always want to see you guys in your state of flow because I know that from a first person perspective. You can't make me do one goddamn thing if I'm like, what?
Yeah.
No. But if you're able to tap into that, I don't even have to manage anything because you're going to fly. You're going to do really, really well.
And you'll also do your best work too.
Exactly.
Like you'll do good work because you care about it and you like it.
So I think, pushing people in spaces or even pushing yourself in a job that you don't want to do or be with a friend that you maybe don't want to hang out with. There could be many different things. If you continue to align yourself within that state of flow, everything in life is going to just look a little brighter.
I agree.
And that brings us to obviously the mission at Ucmd, right? We always want to help turn that light on inside of kids, by giving them a bunch of things to try, by putting them in the studio. Maybe they don't want to be a studio artist. Maybe they want to perform live. Maybe they want to do classical music. Maybe they want to do jazz, pop. Maybe they want to just paint. Maybe they want to make origami stars for the rest of their life. But the point is, we want to put students in different scenarios where their light is going to shine. Because I have definitely seen students in their zones of genius, and I'm thinking of one student in particular. He plays piano. But then when I see him somewhere else, he's totally gray. And it's been really interesting for me to see where it's like almost a different person.
Yeah.
And I think, no, I don't want to say names, Henry. But no, it's not him. It's not him.
Shout out to Matthias.
It's not him. But look, with Matthias, it's a very interesting thing.
Yeah, that's been an interesting
thing. Doesn't do well when he's like held. Like he's not, he's a very hyperactive kid. And I think, what schools don't really, where we miss the mark is we throw this term of ADD or ADHD, and maybe it's just hyper curiosity. Because what I've noticed when parents come to me and they say that their student has been diagnosed with this ambiguous thing that is ADHD, I now observe them in a different way. And I've noticed that what these kids all have in common is that they're just incredibly smart and they think really fast. Yeah, whereas maybe a normal student will process, pause, it'll go through their brain, and then it'll react. ADD kids process really, really fast. So they're just challenging us to give them more and more and more and more and more. Today, Matthias asked me, totally by his own accord, he was done with his homework, and he asked me and Gabby, who we were doing homework together, to give him 3-digit addition problems.
Nice.
And I was like, what? And then he went on his, whatever, we did that. And then he took it a step further, and he started multiplying digits. He had a very complicated way to do it, and he wasn't doing it correctly. But just the fact that he's like, I want to multiply. And I'm like, you're in second grade, my dude. Like, give it a beat. And every other kid will do the bare minimum. Yeah, like ADHD just do the homework. Kids are just pew 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 all over the place because they just want more and more and more and more and more, and nobody can give them that. So that's why spaces like this is important. But tangent. My point is, parents, you bring your kids to us because we're able to turn that light on that maybe schools or other institutions haven't been able to do it. Maybe they tried sports and it wasn't for them. If you are in a position, parents, where you do love your job, like I do anticipate that none of us have kids, but when we do decide, if we do decide to have children, we're going to be in a better position to show by default that kid is going to learn from us what happy looks like in varying states of your life. At your work, maybe in a relationship, at the grocery store, on an even keel thing. And that brings me to close with this term that I love so much, which is ikigai, which means your purpose. And it's a Japanese term. And I think we already touched on this. People from Japan, especially if you're from a blue zone, don't believe in retirement. It's really just an American thing. And your ikigai, which is like your purpose in life, is comprised of your passion, your mission, your profession, and your vocation. So your passion is what you love and what you're good at.
Oh, that's a great
Can
term.
we relate?
Yeah.
Passion is what you love and what you're good at.
Mm-hmm.
Your mission is what you love and what the world needs. Yeah? Still in alignment?
Mm-hmm.
Your vocation is what the world needs and what you can get paid for. And then your profession is what you're good at and what you can get paid for. I hope you guys are following along.
Yeah, we can definitely edit in the
I'll put in the chart. So
yeah, the chart is?
Yeah, so when all of those things match up, that centerpiece is what your purpose is. So, and in life, I've read so many self-help books in my life, and as I work with kids and, talk to families that come from all walks of life, work with you guys, I've always noticed, and I always ask myself, what is my purpose? What is the meaning of life? Mm-hmm. What am I doing? What am I doing? Do you guys consistently ask yourself?
Mm-hmm.
All the time.
And this chart really kind of brought it all together for me. Because in those moments where I have been gray and I have felt a little lost, I revisit this and it kind of snaps me back. Because life will go and sometimes we get into autopilot. That's why flow is important to keep us creative and fresh. And I am really happy to say, and I feel super honored and privileged to be in a position where everything in my life I really, really love.
Yeah, same. I'm looking at this chart and I'm like, dope. Like,
right?
I think everything is checked out for now, yeah.
So I want to ask you guys, what is your ikigai? What is your purpose? And if you're not fulfilling your purpose, I do want to, not to like give you more things to really think about, but we really only live one life. And if you're not in alignment to what you are the best at, imagine what you're not allowing the world to get from you that you should be giving, just because maybe you're hiding behind a cubicle or you're not,
mm-hmm.
really stepping out to do the thing that kind of scares you, maybe a little bit, because flow can be scary.
Yeah.
Do you guys have anything to close?
I like that final point, honestly.
Yeah, I don't want to.
Because we can talk for hours about this,
yeah.
But
so I'm interested to know, and I would really like for you guys to take the week maybe to think about this concept of ikigai. We can put this resource up, but this is something that really changed my life and something that we adopt here and we revisit often. It's also a book, which is great. And yeah, just give it a think as we go into the holidays. We always want to be in alignment with what feels right, and our bodies can tell us. Mm-hmm. So in the same way that we find those flow states and creativity, we do challenge you guys to find your states of flow in everyday life. And with that,
word.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
Bye-bye.
Bye.